Hello friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Mohamad and today we're going to be continuing our Soha API journey. We're going to be basically upgrading our database from utilizing SQLite to Azure SQL DB. We're going to be introducing some infrastructure as code. We're going to be creating automatically and dynamically resource group, databases, Azure Container Registry, so on and so forth. We're going to be restructuring our application a bit, updating our packages. As well, we're going to be adding a Dockerfile to our application. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. It will really help the channel. Now, let's jump into it. The first step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be updating our Jira board. We're going to be adding all of the tasks that we're going to be working on today. So the first task that we're going to be doing is reorganizing our folder structure. Then we're going to be adding Terraform in order for us to create our infrastructure. And then once we have done that, we're going to be upgrading our application from utilizing SQLite to Azure SQL DB. And once that's done, we need to do the migration, so on and so forth. So let's get started. So the first thing is we're going to be doing is organize folder structure to cater for infrastructure as code changes. Okay. Let's open this. And first of all, let's make a description, change the structure, so we are able to add the infrastructure as code, Terraforms into our application. Great. Okay, let's add an epic as well. So we don't have a current epic. So first let's save this. Let's create a new epic. We're gonna call it infrastructure as code. And this epic will be responsible for all of our infrastructure as well as the DevOps pipeline. So currently we don't have any infrastructure or DevOps pipeline set up, but that step is gonna come later on where we're gonna be actually adding a full CI/CD pipeline in order for us to automate the deployment of our application. Okay, great. So since we have this epic, so let's add this. And here, can we see this epic here? No, I think we need to refresh it. So let's refresh this page. And let's click on this one, add epic, and we can see infrastructure as code. Perfect. So once we have done that, let's add the next item. So the next one is going to be basically create the Terraform infrastructure as code for our application. And basically today we're going to be starting very minimal by first of all creating all of our resource groups. Then we're going to be adding our web application, and then we're going to be adding our database. So what are we going to be doing? So create the infrastructure code for Soha API, Soha notebook. Where we will create the following. So let's see what are we gonna be creating. First, we're gonna be adding our resource group. We're gonna be adding our database. I'm gonna put here Azure SQL DB. And I think let's create also a container registry, because we're gonna be basically creating a Docker container for our application, and basically we wanna push that into our container registry. Maybe not the full not a full flow of pushing it right now, but at least we'll have it ready inside our infrastructure as code. I think that should be enough. If there's anything else, we're just gonna update this ticket and basically make it work. So let's save this and let's add an epic to the infrastructure as code. Perfect. Another item that we need to do is, because it's been a while since we last worked on this project, it's a good idea to update our packages. So update application packages. So I think this is gonna be just under maintenance, because it's always good to keep the application up to date. So we don't have anything here, so we're here. Make sure that the NuGet packages are all up to date. And let's save this. And let's create a new epic. And this epic is gonna called support maintenance. Maintaining different parts of the application. Okay, that should be fine. So let's save this. Let's refresh this and then update application package. If we click here, we should see, oh, we have already project maintenance. Okay, let's add it to project maintenance and we'll delete the latest epic. So here, if we click on, what was the number for it? We can directly navigate to it. This is not what we wanted. Let's click on this again. So we have maintenance, which is 37. So let's go to it. Okay, perfect. We don't really need it anymore, so let's see how we can delete it. Delete. Yes. Okay, great. Once we have updated our packages, the next step, it's gonna be basically migrating the application to utilize Azure SQL DB from SQLite. Okay, so this one here, we need to update our API to utilize Azure SQL DB. As well, we need to make sure the migrations work and reinitialize apologies for this. Yep, initialize a migration ADB snapshot. Okay, sounds good. Let's save this. And basically the last thing, if we still have a bit of time for today, we're gonna be creating a Dockerfile for our application. So let's start with here, and we're gonna be basically create a Dockerfile for our API. And this is gonna be none of these basically. So okay, so let's add a description. Dockerize our API and make sure it is connecting to the Azure SQL DB. Okay, I think that should be fine. Let's create an epic for this. And we're gonna call this, or we can make it infrastructure as code instead of creating a new one. but yeah, let's make it for infrastructure as code. Okay, and this one will make it under maintenance, migrating from SQLite to Azure SQL DB. Okay, perfect. Now that we have added all of the tasks that we need to accomplish today, let us get started by first of all the first one we can actually do is the reorganization. So let's put this here and let's start by reorganizing our folder structure. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we need to create here a new folder, and we're going to call it src. Basically, this is where all of our source code is going to live. New folder, src. Perfect, and let's move all of these inside this folder. Actually, yeah, let's move all of them here. Move. Perfect. And the next one, new folder we're going to be creating is called pipelines. And inside the pipelines folder, we're going to be creating new folders, two new folders. One of them is going to be called infrastructure. And the other folder, which is going to be called deployment. Again, these are initial folder structures. We might change them down the road, but for now, I think it's a good starting point. So first of all, let's make sure that everything is still running after we change all of this. So let's navigate to src, and let's navigate to Saha Notebook API, and let's do .NET build, just to make sure that everything is still working. Building. Okay, perfect. Build succeeded with no errors, 5 warnings, that should be fine. Okay, great. So once we have done that, I think we already finished our first task. So that was very easy. So let's go back to our web browser. And basically here what we can do is just move this to done. Nice. So next step is we're going to be actually creating our Terraform infrastructure as code for our application. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So if you don't really know what Terraform is, what you can think about it is like a language that we can actually utilize in order for us to automate all of the deployments that we're going to be needing in order for our application to run on the cloud. So Terraform supports different cloud providers, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, so on and so forth. And basically whatever you can do on the portal, I think it's like 99% of what you can do on the portal, you can automate them by writing some code and executing that code, and it will basically run all of this for you in an automated way. So it will reduce a lot the human error. Basically, once you run it once and make sure that it is exactly what you want, you can actually then redo it again and again and again. And basically it relies on the HCL language. I think it's a HashiCorp language. And basically what it does is once you write your language within the HashiCorp language, it will automatically convert it to basically to whatever web or cloud provider that you want to integrate with, and it will execute it for you. We're gonna see this right now, but I thought I'll give a quick introduction about what is Terraform. And the idea behind all of that is once you have written it once, you can actually utilize it as many as you want, and it's much more structured, and basically it will allow you to have versioning for your infrastructure, which is really good. So if you want to learn more about it, I have a full video regarding to infrastructure as code, how you can actually create them, automate them, so on and so forth, which I'm going to be linking here somewhere. So for now, let us start by actually creating our infrastructure as code for our Saha Notebook API. So let's go back to our source code. And what we're going to be doing is, first of all, inside our infrastructure folder here, we're going to be creating a new file. Okay, before we start, what you need to do is you need to actually have Terraform available on your machine. So let's first go to our web browser before we do that. And I have already done all of those installation. So once you go here, you can go to Terraform, and basically you can download the CLI. I have already downloaded the CLI, and once you have downloaded, you need to make sure that it is running on your machine. Once that is done, the next step is you need to download, because currently we're integrating with Azure, you need to have your Azure CLI available. Again, you need to look for Azure CLI, and once you have done that, you go to command through Azure CLI and you click on the download, and you choose which, for example, whatever OS you have. So for example, for Mac OS, you can utilize Homebrew. This is exactly what I did, and I have Azure CLI available for me. Okay, perfect. So these were the main two things, Terraform as well as Azure CLI. So now that we have basically discussed the requirement for us to utilize this, let's go back to our source code and actually start writing some Terraforms. So first things first, let's create a new file, and this file we're gonna call it main.tf. So what are we gonna be adding inside this file? So as we know, inside Azure, let's go back here and let's open this draw.io. Okay, device. We'll put it inside our downloads folder. Okay, so as we know, whenever we are utilizing Azure, we need to have a resource group. So this is a resource group. So the first thing that we need to be creating is we're going to be creating a resource group, and basically a resource group, we can think about it as a bucket where we're going to put all of our Azure cloud services. It will make it way more easier for us to organize the different services where we're going to be utilizing inside a single resource group. And we're going to be needing a container registry. So let's see. Yeah, we're going to be needing the container registry. So that's a nice container registry here. So we need to create a container and container registry. We need to create a resource group, and basically we need to create also a database. So Azure SQL, and we're gonna be basically creating an Azure SQL DB. So these three things, basically what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be creating those. Instead of going to portal.azure.com, so instead of coming here and, for example, creating a new resource, let's say we want to create our database, for example, creating Azure SQL database, and filling all of this information manually, and basically configuring all of this manually through this wizard. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be utilizing Terraform in order for us to do all of that. So, and we're going to be able to seeing them here once they have been executed correctly. So let's go back to our source code. And the first thing that we need to do is let's open another terminal, and I want to make sure that I'm logged into Azure. So I'm just going to type Azure login. And I should be already logged in. It opened in my web browser. Let me authenticate. Now this usually takes up to like a 30 seconds to a minute. So now that we have logged into Azure through our Azure CLI, one thing that we really need to focus on, if you have multiple subscriptions on Azure, you need to make sure that you select the right subscription for you, because there is a lot of different subscriptions on Azure. And basically, for example, in any meantime, you can have your personal one, you can have someone else linked you to their account. So you don't want to create your resources on a different directories on Azure. So you need to make sure that you are in the right directory, and it's very easy to do that. All you need to do is just, let's go to our web browser. All you need to do is just execute this command. So basically, AZ stands for Azure, account, specify which account, and then you put set. And basically what you're gonna do here, either you specify the subscription name or the subscription ID, and that should be able to work. But make sure that you are under the right subscription when you're doing anything. Okay, so just wanted to clarify this point. So now that we have done this, let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and let us start building our main.tf. So first thing first, inside Terraform, we need actually to specify that this is a Terraform file, and basically what we need to do is we are creating a Terraform application for Azure. So how do we do that? We first specify Terraform, and then basically what we do is we specify the required underscore providers. And what does this mean? So basically, a required providers mean is to which cloud provider that we want to integrate with. And currently we want to integrate with Azure, so we put a required underscore providers, and basically we put Azure RM. And basically what we're going to be doing here is we need to specify some information related to Azure. So first we need to specify the source. All of this can be standard, you can find it online. So it's going to be HashiCorp, and it's going to be Azure RM. And once we have specified that, the next step is we need to specify the version, and we're going to be utilizing the latest version, which is going to be, it's either going to be more or equal to 2.96.0. Okay, great. So once we have done that, let's save this. And now we need to specify the actual provider. We need to initialize it. So we're going to put here provider, and we're going to put Azure RM, and basically for now we're going to use an empty feature list, because we need to define a feature. Even if it's empty, we need to tell that there's a feature list even if it's empty. Once we have done that, the next step is we need to actually create a resource group, and this resource group here, this is going to be what we're going to be putting everything in. So we're going to put resource, and we're going to put here, it's going to be Azure RM underscore resource underscore group, and we're going to give it a name. And here we need to pay a bit of attention, because the name that we're giving it here is the name that we're going to be referring to through Azure, Terraform. Terraform document. It's not going to be the name on Azure. The name on Azure, we're going to specify it inside. So for now, we're just going to put Saha notebook underscore resource group. And here, for example, now with this name here that we specify, it's going to be the name that's going to be reflected on Azure. I'm just going to call it Saha notebook RG resource group. And then we're going to put the location, and I'm just going to put it at UK South. And I think this is a good first step. So once we have created here, so let's do a quick recap. So we initialized Terraform, we specified the providers, we're telling Terraform that we need to connect to Azure. Once we have done that, we specified the source and the version. Then we have basically initialized the provider, similar to we do initialization, and we told them we're going to be utilizing an empty feature list. And then once we have done that, under resource here, we basically created our resource group, and basically we specified the location. So once we have done that, now it's time for us to test this code if it's actually working, and we can see if it's actually connecting to Azure. So first things first, the first thing that you need to do is Terraform is emphasized of 3 steps. First is going to be the initialization of the Terraform files, then we're going to be the planning, and then the execution. So the init, basically what it does, it converts or basically it's set up like a version of Terraform inside this local folder, and basically it provides all of the different resources. For example, here we are utilizing HashiCorp Azure RM, so it will put all of these libraries inside. We can think about it this way, inside this folder that we're going to be using. Terraform plan, it takes whatever we want to create, it will create the source code for it, and it will make sure that all of our code is compliant. And once it does that, it gives us a green light. So we have Terraform init plan and apply. The apply one is basically it's going to execute and basically run the script onto Azure itself. So let's start with first Terraform init. We need to go to the directory, so we need to go to pipeline. And then we're gonna go to infrastructure, and then we're gonna put Terraform init. That's gonna be, we can see that it starts initializing, and if we look at the folder itself, we can see that we have a new folder Terraform being added and all of that, and we can see that the initialization has been successful. Great. Then we need to put Terraform plan, and basically right now it's going to go through whatever we have, and it's going to basically start planning for it and creating the resources and validating that whatever we have is actually valid. Perfect. It says that if we go here, we can see the only thing that's going to be doing, it's going to be adding a new resource group. and basically it's gonna call it Saha Notebook RG. And once we have done that, all we need to do is Terraform, apply. This is gonna be the last one. And this is usually take the longest, because basically what's doing here is taking all of the Terraform source code and basically applying it to the cloud. And once it does that, it asks you for a last confirmation. Do you really want to apply these changes? We're going to have to say yes. And this will take a few minutes to be completed. And once that's completed, we'll resume the video.
A few moments later.
So now that our resource has been created successfully, we can see here that we got the green confirmation that the resource has been applied. And if we go now right back to our web browser and we come here to Azure, and if we go to resource group, we should see our resource group has been created. Let's zoom in a bit. And we can see that our Saha Notebook RJ has been created, and it should be empty right now because we don't have anything inside of it. Perfect. So now that we have we made sure that the first part of our application is working as it should be, let's go back and continue adding some of the other stuff that we want to our resource group. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. And basically right now what we're going to be doing is, the first thing is we're going to be creating an ACR, which is basically our Azure Container Registry. So let's create a new file, and we're gonna call it acr.tf, and every Terraform file must have a .tf extension. We can add all of this to a single file, but it's always better to separate the different files into a different different functionalities into different files. So the initialization in a single file, for example, the ACR in a different file, the database in a separate file. It will make it much more easier as the application gets more advanced and more complicated. It will make it much more easier to manage and to do any changes that we want to change. So first things first, we're gonna basically create a resource, and this resource we're gonna put Azure rm underscore container underscore registry. And once we have done that, we need to give it a name, and we're gonna call it ACR, Azure Container Registry. Simple as that. And once we have done that, we need to give it a name, and we're gonna call it, let's call it Saha Notebook ACR. Okay. Once we have done that, the next step, we're gonna specify the resource group name. And basically, if we take a look, what did we call the resource group that we created here? We called it sn underscore rj, so we need to utilize this one. So we put first Azure rm resource group, and then we can see autocomplete will start making for us and automatically put for us .sn underscore rj, and we need to put the name, and then we need to specify the location. So it's gonna put location, and we're gonna utilize the same location as our resource group. So we're going to test that and put location, and then once we have specified the location, we need to specify the SKU. And for the sake of this, we're just going to make it basic. We're not going to even, because basic is more than enough for our needs right now. And the last one is we're going to put admin enabled. We're going to put true. Perfect. So once we have done that, let us do the same thing again. So Terraform apply. Sorry, it's going to be Terraform init. Terraform init. Terraform plan. And the more complicated or the more stuff that you add, the planning and the apply is going to take more time. So here we can see that it actually started creating our ACR with all of these configurations. And lastly, we're going to put Terraform apply. And it's going to ask us for a confirmation now. Perfect. We also need to put yes. Let us make sure that it's creating what we want. Okay, admin enabled, yes. We don't want to specify right now the password or the username. That's fine. The encryption, we didn't specify that. The location and the SKU. Okay, great. And as soon as we type yes, it's gonna run and we'll come back as soon as this is finished.
A few moments later.
So now that it has been created, let us go to our resource group, or actually to Azure. Let's refresh and let's click here. And right now we should see our ACR has been created for us. And if we click here, we can see our ACR and of type basic, and it's empty currently because we don't have any containers on it. Perfect. So let's go back and let's go back to our source code. So the next step is we want to create our database. So let's go back here first to make sure that we are aligned. So we said we're going to create a resource group, done, container registry, done. Now we need to create our database. Okay, perfect. So let's create a new file, and this file we're going to call it database.tf. Perfect. And basically the database, similar to what we have done before, we need to create a resource group and we'll take it from there. So it's going to be a resource, and it's going to be Azure rm_SQL_server. So basically a database, we cannot just create a database. We need first to create a SQL server, and then we need to add the database to that SQL server. So now let's create our SQL server first. So we're gonna call it Saha DB server. I think it's a good name. And then basically we're gonna give it a name, and the name, for example, is gonna be, we'll call it Saha server for now. Okay, Saha DB server. Once we have specified the name, we need to specify the resource group name. It's going to be similar to what we did before. So resource group, Azure resource group dot, it was, let's check the name, it was sn_rj. So sn_rj dot name, and then we need to specify the location. It's going to be also UK South, but we can utilize here Azure resource group, and we can put location. And once we have done that, basically we need to specify, because it's a SQL server, we need to specify the admin and the password. So usually here what we need to do is we can actually link it to an Azure Key Vault, and we can save those credentials there. And once we have specified all of these credentials in Key Vault, we can basically download them instead of hard coding them here. But for the sake of this demo, we're just gonna hard code all of these credentials here. But please, on any of your production, do not hard code your username and password into the source code. It's a really bad practice. So we're gonna put administrator login, and basically we're gonna put Mohamad, and we're gonna put administrator password, and we're just gonna put the normal pass. Okay, I think that should be enough. And now let's specify the version that we want, and we're gonna utilize version 12.0. Let's see the name, resource, location, administrator, login, and a password, and the version. And the last thing, I think it's good to have tags. So basically a tag, it will allow, if we have, for example, different resources and we want to, for example, search through them, tags is a good way to do that. So I'm just going to specify the environment. I'm just going to put it as a development environment. Okay, perfect. So once we have done that, let us try it. So Terraform init. Terraform plan. And lastly, Terraform apply. And we need to put yes. We'll resume once this is finished in a few minutes.
A few moments later.
Okay, now that it has been created successfully and we can see that everything is in green, let's go back to our web browser and basically let's go here, let's refresh and let's go to Saha Notebook and we should see our DB server. Perfect, let's go in. We can see the server admin, which is my name, the location, and if we look here, there shouldn't be any databases. Perfect. So the next step is we need to actually create our database. So it's going to be also very easy. So we're going to put resource and we're going to put Azure RM underscore SQL underscore database. And then we're going to give it a name and I'm going to call it SahaDB. Perfect. Then we're going to give it the name that's actually going to be saved on Azure and we're going to call it Saha, call it SNDB, Saha Notebook DB, easy. Then we're going to put also the resource group name. We're going to put, for example, Azure RM underscore resource group dot SN underscore RJ dot name. And then we need to specify the location. It's going to be similar. We're gonna put Azure RM underscore resource group, not container registry, resource underscore group dot location, and location. And once we have done that, I think the next step is we need to specify the server name. So we need to tell it which server it needs to connect to. It's going to be Azure, Azure RM underscore SQL server, and we named it here Saha underscore DB server dot name. And we need to specify the edition, and for this database we're gonna utilize just the basic of the basics, so basic. And lastly we're gonna tag as well, add the tags, and we're gonna make it environment equal development as well, so the lowest and cheapest. Okay, let's save this. So name, resource name, okay, location, server name, edition, I think that should be enough. So again, let's do the same thing. So Terraform init, Terraform plan, and lastly Terraform apply. This should take another few minutes to be completed. We're just gonna say yes, but let us review before we say yes. Let's see what's gonna be creating. We can see it's creating our database, SahaDB. All of the collection default, basic, UK South, SNB, read scale false, because environment development. Okay, perfect. Click yes, and we'll resume once this has been created, and this will take another few minutes.
A few moments later.
So now we can see it has been created successfully. Let's go to our web browser. And we can see automatically directly the database showed up. If you click on overview, if you scroll a bit down, we can see the database here. If you click on it, we can see it's basic, it's the smallest one, and we can see the tags already added there. It belongs to the server that we have created. Perfect, everything that we wanted is already here. So now that we have basically created our infrastructure that we wanted for our application, let's update our Saha notebook board, and this has been completed. So the next step for us is, let's take this here, and okay, before we do that, let me put this back, and I want to just show you one thing. So right now what we did is we have created everything we wanted in Terraform. Let's say we change our mind and we don't want anything anymore. We want to basically delete everything that we have created. We don't really want to go to Azure and do that manually because we might miss some step. Terraform provides a very powerful feature, which is going to be Terraform destroy. And basically what this does is it will actually reverse everything what we did. It will check all of the resources locally, it will check every resources on Azure, and basically it will delete them. So if I click yes, enter, sorry, and it's gonna ask me, do you really want to delete everything? So let's do this, right? Let's see what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna say yes, and if we take a look at the outcome, it's telling us that all of this with the red, it means that it's gonna be removed. So destroyed, all of these destroyed, perfect. So let us click on yes, and I can basically directly recreate them with a simple step, Terraform, init, plan, and apply, because basically we have all of the files there, and we know 100% that they are working because we have just deployed them. And this will take a few seconds, actually up to a minute to be completed, and once that is done, we're just gonna update our ticket again, and then we can update our packages.
A few moments later.
So now that it has been completed, we can see here that the resource group has been destroyed. And if we go back to our Azure portal, and if I click on refresh, we can see that the resource group has been removed and there's nothing there. I'm back to my default resource group that has been created for me, and basically everything else has been deleted. Perfect. Okay, great. So let's go back to our web browser and let's update this. Let's put this here, and now let's update the packages. So inside our SRC, so let's put this here. So to update the packages, there's an easy way, and it's also easy but takes more time, which is manually. If we're using Visual Studio or we're using Rider, there is already a package manager there that we can actually utilize. Right-click update. But with Visual Studio Code, to my knowledge at least, I don't think there's a NuGet package manager that we can utilize, so we have to do this manually. So what we're going to be doing is we need to just make this a bit smaller, similar to this, and let's take this and let's make this also a bit smaller so both of them will fit on the same screen. And what we're gonna be doing here is we need to go to these packages and updating them. So currently, let's close this so we can see. So currently, the latest version here is 0.6.0. If we put .NET -- version, we can see that the latest version is 6.0.102, which is basically a much more upgraded than this one. So we need to update these to be on the latest version. So how do we do that? So let's copy this one. Actually, let's start with AutoMapper. I think AutoMapper is now on version 11. So we'll put in NuGet, AutoMapper, and we can see, yes, it's already on version 11.0.1. So let's take this here and we'll update it. And then we have the AutoMapper extension. Let's see which one is it here. It's on version 11, so let us put here on version 11. So it jumped from version 8.11 to version 11.00. So 11.0.0. And the next one, it's gonna be the bearer, JWT bearer. I think it's gonna be on 6.0.2. Let's check this, 6.0.2, so all we need to do is update this to 2. And let's check the identity UI. Let's do this. And it's also on 0.2, which is perfect. I think the versioning is still the same. Let us double check, there is no harm. 5.0, that's correct. And framework design, entity framework core design, let's see. 6.0.2, okay, perfect. Is there any other packages? Yeah, the swashbuckle ASP.NET Core, let's check this one. And check 6.2.3, 6.2.3, okay, perfect. So this is the first project. Let's make this a bit smaller. Let's make this a bit bigger. Okay, so let's come here And let's go to Saha Notebook Authentication and let's check this one here. Nothing, no packages, perfect. The configuration, also no packages, perfect. Data service, I'm sure there's packages here. Yes, okay, let's update this one first. So let's close this and let's check this one. I think it's gonna be on 6.0.2. 6.0.2. And we already updated this, the design, to 6.0.2. This is we're gonna be deleting because we're switching it up with Azure SQL. And let's update this one. And let's pass it here. 6.0.2. Okay, perfect. So now that we have updated our, I think there was one project left. Let's double check this. Yes, I don't think it's containing anything. Oh, it does. Identity UI. Okay, this has to be 6.0.2 as well. Okay, great. So now that we have updated all of that, the next step is we need to actually install the package inside our Saha Notebook data service, which will allow us to communicate with Azure SQL DB, because previously it was SQLite and we don't want to use it anymore. And we need to install the package. So how do we do that? Very simple. We need to install the sub package. So we're going to be utilizing, let's make this bigger again. Okay, because, okay, so it's going to be, we're going to be using the .NET add. So .NET add package Microsoft. Oh, first we need to actually make sure that we're in the right folder. So that's a very important thing. So we don't want to be in the API. So we need to be inside the database. So data service. And then here is going to be .NET add package Microsoft dot entity framework core dot SQL server. Great, installed successfully. Now let's double check inside the data service. We can see SQL Server 6.0.2, exactly what we wanted. Now that we have done that and we have updated, let us update this package. So this has been completed. Boom, done. And let's make this a bit bigger again. And basically here, migrate the application to utilize SQL, Azure SQL DB. Okay, that's going to be also very easy for us. So what we're going to be doing here is we need to go back to program.cs. And basically what we need to do is very simple, and that's the power here, is instead of you having this, we're going to put use SQL server and save. And now basically this simple line, use SQL server, allowed us entire application to switch from utilizing SQLite to SQL server, as simple as that. So what we can do is just go back, cd Saha notebook.api. Let's do a .NET build to make sure that the application is building and all of the packages has been restored successfully. Basically we have updated all of the packages. Perfect. Everything is building successfully. Now the next step for us is first let us apply everything because we want to migrate. So we're going to put Terraform in it. Terraform plan. And lastly, Terraform apply. Because what we want to do here is we want to actually connect to our database and basically apply all of the migrations. The main issue here, because all of the migration that we currently have are based on SQLite, what we need to do is we need to delete those migration and we need to basically create a new one. So here we need to say yes. And basically we can see right now how we can actually create a new migration, but just basically adding a new migration and we're deleting those migrations from the folder. Let's wait until this is done and then we can resume.
A few moments later.
So while the Terraform is being applied right now, what we can do is let's go back to our Saha notebook data service. And basically, let's delete all of these migrations that we currently have. And DB snapshot, so let's delete it. And what we're going to be doing is we need to create new migrations. So .NET EF migrations, add, we're going to call it initial migration. And we're going to give it the startup project of the API. So Saha Notebook API. Saha API. Okay, great. And basically this is what's going to be doing right now. It's going to create for us a migration script, and it's going to create a snapshot of the latest changes to the database. So this will take a few seconds. Let's check the Terraform if it's still working. Oh, we need to put yes. Okay. So now that it has been created, we can see here that we have our application DB contacts and we have our two databases here, the migration script, sorry, here. So as we are waiting for this to be completed, because basically Terraforms, when you're creating a lot of stuff in a batch, it's going to take some time to be completed. So what we can do is we can actually create our Dockerfile. So let's do this right now. So before actually starting creating our Dockerfile, just remember that we have not updated our connection string from SQLite to the actual database server. This is we have to keep right now until this is done and we can actually get the full information from there, but just a reminder that we need to update our connection string. So inside here, inside our SRC folder, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a new file and we're going to call it Dockerfile, which is perfect. And basically right now we need to actually specify our Dockers. So the first thing is we need to specify our SDK. So from mcr.microsoft.com/.net/SDK :6.0 as base. Okay, great. And now we need to specify the work directory. If you don't really know Dockerfile, I have another video here which I'm going to be linking it somewhere where they go exactly about the Docker file, what do they mean. I'm going to try to explain them as I go, but if you want to know more in depth, I'm going to link that video here so you can watch it. I'm going to put the working directory. So this is the folder inside our Docker image that we want to create, so called app. We want to expose port. So we're going to expose port 80 and we want to expose port 443. Okay, and basically right now what we're going to do is, again, we're going to create a development image. So mcr.microsoft.net/.net/SDK :6.0 as we're gonna make it as build, which is basically our development. And then once we have done that, we need to specify a work directory inside of it, and we're gonna call it SRC. Perfect. And what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna copy the CS proj from Saha Notebook API to this here. So it's gonna be Saha Notebook. It's gonna be like this. Saha Notebook.api, and yeah, we're gonna copy it into the SRC, or we can copy it to the root directory .api, because basically we're gonna export it either way. And once we have done that, let's run a command. So it's gonna be before we just copy everything else with it, and then we're gonna run a command inside that work directory, and it's gonna be /src, and we're gonna put Saha Notebook.api, and then once we've done that, we're gonna run dotnet build dash c release /o /app. Basically we are building the application in release mode and we are outputting in a folder called app. And once we have done that, we're gonna put the from. Let's copy this one. Actually we can do from build as base, as publish, sorry, it's easier. And once we have done that, the rest is going to be run .net publish dash c release dash o /app /publish. And lastly we can put from base as final, from base as final, and we'll specify a work directory and /app. And basically we're gonna just copy whatever we have published before from publish into /app /publish dot. Okay, so basically what we did here, we have published the application from this build, and we're telling it that you need to go to this image and we need to copy everything that exists here into the root directory of this new image, which is perfect. And lastly we're going to specify the entry point, and it's going to be .net, صحة notebook.api .dll. I think that should be enough. We have Docker running. Let's go here, so cd src صحة notebook.api API, and let's first do .NET build, make sure it's building as it should be. This is still running. Okay, perfect. This has been created successfully, and let's make sure this has been successfully. So let's go here and let's refresh this, and we can see that we have our Saha DB server, we have our application inside our DB server. We can see the admin, we can see that everything has been recreated as we want, the database, so on and so forth, everything is here. Okay, great. What we want to do right now is we want to basically create our connection string. So let's finish, let's make sure this is running, then we can do this finally. So it's running, so let's go back, cd, and basically what we want to here is we're going to docker build, we're gonna tag this image with Saha notebook, and like this, and this should take a few seconds. Basically what it's doing here, we're building the Docker image and we're telling it to build. Let's see if everything's gonna go to plan. Okay, perfect. Now our Docker image is running, and let's put Docker. Okay, it's not gonna work because we did not update the connection string. So let's do this right now. So let's go here, app settings. We're gonna call this default connection SQLite, and we're just gonna create a new one here, default connection. I'm just gonna put a comma. Okay, so basically the format for a connection string is very easy. For a SQL Server connection string is very easy. So let's do this right now. So it's gonna be first server equal, let's see, what do we call that server? So a notebook. So let's make this a bit bigger. Let's make this smaller. Okay, let's close this. So a notebook. Okay, DB server, and we can see this is the server name, so let's copy this. So this is the server, and then I think we need to specify the port, which is gonna be 1433. Then we need to specify the initial catalog, which is gonna be the database initial. Why is not typing? Okay, initial catalog. And then once we have done that, we need to specify, I think the DB name was SNDB. Okay, perfect. And then we need to specify the username. So it's going to be user ID. I think it was Mohamad. And I think the password was, let's see what we didn't save it here. Let's copy the password. Let's come here and it's gonna put password equal. Okay, that should be fine. So this will still not work because basically we have not allowed or whitelisted our IP yet into Azure. So let's create a task here so we can do this later, which is gonna be automate the whitelisting of the IP for the DB once it has been created. Let's make sure that this is under infrastructure. Okay, because this is gonna take us a bit of time. As well, let's create another ticket which is gonna be save the DB credentials in Azure Key Vault and download them as var into Terraform. Okay, as well, this is gonna be another infrastructure as code. So now let's come here and let's go to security. Where is that? Okay, let's go to firewall settings. And basically we want to add our IP, so we need to click on add a client IP. I'm just gonna call it Mohamad. Save. Now I can connect to my database. So now first let's run the migrations to make sure that it's running as it should be. So here what we're gonna put is .NET EF database update. We're gonna specify the startup project. So Notebook API. Perfect, it's running. Okay, this should take a few seconds to be completed. It's not accessible. I wonder why. Okay, let's see. Initial catalog, SNDB, Mohamad, the password. Oh, let's try again. So let's update our EF tool. Update EF tools. So this is how we update it. So let's copy this one. Is this running still? Okay, it's done. Perfect. Before we do anything, let us just update EF tools. Perfect, has been updated to 6.2. And now let us open our DB Beaver. Nope. Okay, not now. Nope. And let's choose SQL Server next. So let's take this, copy, let's put this here, SNB, this is the database, copy, let's put this here, and let's copy the password, and I know the username. Username is Mohamad. Test connection, download, This should work. Let's see. I wonder why it's not working, so let's try again. Okay. Still trying. So where is it? Okay, maybe we did something wrong. Okay. So we added copy this. We don't really need this here. Now if we put this connection, yeah, now it should be working. SNB, Mohamad, and the password. Cancel operation. Okay. If we click on finish, what happens? Let's close the beaver and open it again. Okay. Close. Okay. If we open this, SNB, username is Mohamad. Maybe I copied the wrong passwords. Everything is a possibility, so copy. And let's paste the password here. Oh, okay, it worked, it connected. If we open databases, we can see SNB database. If we look at the schema, DBO, we can see all of our tables. Okay, perfect. So it's working as it should be, and we are able to connect. The migration worked. And lastly, what happened here? Okay, lastly, let us try to run our Docker container. So let's first build it again. So I think we did it here on this one. Yes, so let's build the container again. So it will contain the latest connection string. Again, this is not the right way. The connection string needs to be dynamically injected into the container, which is not hard-coded, but this is for demo purposes. Perfect. Now if we type dotnet run, docker run, let's specify the port, so 8080 to port 80, and we just call it Saha notebook, and we can see that the application is running as it should be. Okay, perfect. So as a quick summary of what we have done today, first let's update our tickets. So create a Dockerfile, we did it and we completed it. Migration, we have already done that. Okay, perfect. So let's do a quick recap of what we did today. First of all, we have basically restructured our application in order for us to have a place where we can store our pipelines. Then we have created all of our Terraform files, where we have basically created our main resource group. We have created our database, Azure Container Registry, and so on and so forth. And we have basically explored the different commands with Terraform, like Terraform init, Terraform plan, and Terraform apply. And we have also explored Terraform destroy, and we saw where we can utilize any of these different commands. And once we have done that, basically we have upgraded our packages, and then basically we have shifted our utilization of SQLite to Azure SQL DB. And then basically we have created a new migration scripts. And then once we have completed all of that, what we did is we have created a Dockerfile. And once the Dockerfile has been created, we were able to run it. And then basically we're able to create and connect to the Azure SQL DB database. All in all, it was a very first step into basically DevOps and basically have a full automated pipeline for our application. Thank you very much for watching. Please put all of your questions in the comment down below. And if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. It will really help the channel. Have a great day.